in the Game Tech booth here at GDC 2019, and this demo, well, it's going to be really interesting for me because we see ones that work on business levels and we see ones that work on game design, but what we're doing with machine learning here, as Chris is about to show us, is, well, it really crosses over because by virtue of using player feedback to improve our design and development, or I guess just our design, we're actually able to retain players and improve the lifespan of our game. So before I get any more heady, let me turn it over to Chris, who's going to blow our minds. By the way, this demo is also incredibly cool.
I'm glad you like it, man. I had a great time making it. So what we're seeing here, this is an emulated game. This is a game, it's playing itself, it has utility AIs that are playing the game and are telling us, as they're playing it, whether they like what they're doing, whether they don't like what they're doing.
And to be fair, so it's basically, so you guys understand, so it's representation, two sides at war with a neutral ground, and they didn't start out like this. They started out with everybody back in their home base.
That's exactly how it started, yeah. And what we see, there's a couple of these characters, they haven't left their home base in a long, long time. They're socializers, they're having fun talking to each other. What we did end up, and this was unexpected, but for the AI approach, these uncharted territories are very interesting for explorer type players, because what they're doing, they want to see the world, they want to see what's going on, they want to see how things are happening. So they all went there, but unfortunately what that made it is a target-rich environment for the killer players, so the killers have joined them out there, and so that's why we have so much density in these two areas. So they're playing the game, they're telling us whether they're happy or not, but what we're also seeing is we're seeing these little pips of light happen. And what the pips of light happen, the little ones are, again, whether they're happy or not. The pink blobs are when we're detecting groups of players. And the big circular blobs are when we found a cool encounter that we can give them that will help them enjoy the game more. So the idea really is that, when you're dealing with the game, players finish. They come to the end of the content and they're done. And there's a couple of ways to extend the life cycle of the game. One is to create new content, which is time consuming and expensive. One is to reuse content. Players know when that happens. They know what a daily quest looks like. They know when they've done the raid for the 90th time. They get it. They understand that. And that starts to expose the treadmill. And no one wants to see the treadmill. They want to have fun. We're in the player retention booth. Players play, they stick around, they are retained when they are enjoying themselves. So this is really about fun. So this is about a way to reinforce the way a player engages in the world and enjoys doing it.
Yeah, I mean, what's cool to me about this is not what I would call it, let me not call it artificial retention because we all know data works, but this is not retention by virtue of getting you to buy into a loop or getting you in some sort of a compulsion loop, right? This is getting you to come back because, oh my God, I don't know what the game is going to throw at me next.
Exactly, that's exactly right, yeah. I mean, the algorithms we're using, we can do two things. We can detect groups of players, we can detect stragglers. So what we can do is, as players are in the game world doing their own thing, we have these opportunities. We're generating these opportunities to enjoy, so that these players can interact with us, okay? And when they're together, we can say, okay, based on the combined profile of these players, who are these people? Are they builders? Are they socializers? Are they killers? We can take that aggregate profile, we can run it against a machine learning endpoint, and the machine learning endpoint can tell us, based on the events in our catalog, I think a PvP event would be a lot of fun. And we can spawn right there and then. We can make it happen, and then we can get feedback on that from the players, whether they engage with it, whether they kept doing something else, whether they left entirely. So we can start to refine both the game design itself as well as understand how our players are consuming the game.
So let me make sure I understand that correctly, because what you're saying, I understand, is that based off of the big data that we can have around how players behave, even what they're doing, almost like the big brother stuff we don't want in the real world is the stuff that makes games great. Yeah. I mean, that's basically it, right? It's because when I'm in my entertainment zone, I want you to know about me. I want you to know about what I want to do, because then you can give me this.
You know what this is? I mean, this harkens back, if you think all games, everything in this room harkens back to a game like Dungeons & Dragons. Everything goes back to a role-playing game. Even if it's a shooter, it's an environment, you have a feel, you have a health pool, you're taking damage. There's still a debt of all these games have to the original role-playing games and the chainmail type stuff, right? And what was common to all those games was a curated experience. We had game masters that were helping us stay on the rails. They helped us enjoy the experience, and when we started going off the rails, they guided us gently on. As we started to get into games later on, moos and mushes and muds, the smaller scale, we still had those game masters that were there to help us to really get us to enjoy it. We don't have that at massive scale anymore. There's literally no way we can do that on the organic level. So what machine learning is really doing here is it's adding that game master back into the game. It's not necessarily making all the same decisions a game master has, but it's providing a curated experience, and it's refreshing data, it's providing new things for players to do in the world they thought they already knew.
Yeah, but I totally get it. It's like, so I had a bunch of friends that used to play like Den of Thieves, the original D&D. But I'm like, remember like this one dude, he hated hobgoblins, right? So our DM would always throw more hobgoblins in just to sort of like tweak his rails, right? But what you're telling me is like basically this thing can figure out how to do that on its own.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it depends on how much data you're collecting on your players, but you're always building robust player profiles. Like, for example, if I'm detecting stragglers out in the middle of nowhere, and I see this player, I've detected him because of my machine learning has shown me that there's somebody out in the middle of nowhere, and he's a lore person. He loves to learn things, and he's an explorer, so he likes to explore things. So, okay, let's look at our long list of curated, templated encounters, and let's throw an NPC at him that has something new to say about the world that they've never heard before. That's not anywhere. It's not in the game databases. No one in general chat's going to know about it. Reddit's not going to. Nobody's seen this before, and he can have this experience. He can say, "Hey, this was great," and he can go back to general chat and say, "Hey, you guys, what's happening in the zone out here in the middle of nowhere? I just found this thing." And then everyone's going to go to that part of the zone, and they're not going to find what he found, but what they are going to find out is that we can detect them as a group, as an ad hoc group that went out there, and we can give them an entirely new experience based on the composition that they have, so of their group. So we can give them new and dynamic encounters. We can start to train players to understand that the world they thought they knew, every time they go out into it, there's an adventure waiting. There's something new to be seen.
It's such a cool idea, folks. This is another one of those places where, as designers, you're going to really get to stretch your innovation skills to a new level because it's going to give you all kinds of new parameters to consider, all kinds of new ways to give your players extensible experiences, but have a machine learning director that guides them to the fun and make sure that they're having fun while they're doing it. Chris, this is super, super cool. Thanks for showing it to us. You guys stick around. We got a lot more coming to you from the Game Tech booth here at GDC 2019.